All right, for those just tuning in, we just finished up our matchup between the DeathWatch and the Orks with a final score. I got to look back at it. 91 for the Dirty DeathWatch. 30 for a 57 for the beautiful Orks, unfortunately. So let's talk about this a bit because there's a lot to take away from this. We've seen the DeathWatch kind of perform this way before. The two units that kind of your go-to units that you pick up, drop down, have been the Odometer Kill Team and the Talon Strike.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been very efficient, and I feel like this efficiency just continues, especially on the Odometer Kill Team being able to hurt something like vehicles in that sense without a lot of effort, just needing the speeder to hit.
Yeah, it takes a little effort. I mean, those big kill teams are a lot of points. 270 for the Odometer, 290 for the Talon Strike. And then you're usually putting some strats into them. The speeder helping things out there. So, yeah, they definitely have the power to hit. I think the DeathWatch can struggle into the list that have like a lot of vehicle units, but really you only have 5 vehicle units. You have lots of vehicle models, but because I was able to focus down on the big units, allowed me to do a lot of damage when I needed to. And the other thing being that I had 3 of the DeathWatch veterans, and they get full rerolls to hit into Xenos, and that was really a big deal because they were really wailing on, especially on the Killicans, because those Thunderhammers wounding on 3s and getting full rerolls to hit. They just got a lot of work done.
Well, and what I mean by it is with little effort is you spend a command point, pick them up, and put them anywhere on the field. So with a lot of your army and a lot of and especially again that the speeder, it's put it where you need it. So you don't have to be as finessed and moving around and try and position it. You just go, I want this here, I want this here, I want that to go back over there, out of the game. And that's pretty much where that goes. The boosted strength, the additional AP into it is really huge. It was really able to pick those up quickly. The Talon Strike were a little less impressive on your turn.
In my shooting phase, they killed what, 1.5 Killicans?
Yeah, and I was like, okay, cool, we're in this. And then that entire everything, the dice just absolutely told me no. This entire flank, I was not allowed to have.
DeathWatch have a really strong Overwatch, especially when
Marines
one of my
general.
Well, DeathWatch have a very strong Overwatch because I can pick 2 oath targets for that one turn when I bring a lot in. And so if I don't kill one of them, I can Overwatch it, and I usually have either sustained or lethals going on. So when I'm hitting an oath target with full rerolls to hit on the Overwatch and either getting sustained or lethal, a lot gets done. I had lethals. I rolled an above average number of 6s, but still, on average, I probably still killed 2 of those Killicans.
Yeah, I mean,
4 was pretty fortunate.
Yeah, that was rough because then it dropped me down to 1 can where I was able to complete the charge, but it didn't have the pushback to go into it. On top of it, then I shoot at them, and with a weapon that should be able to shred literally half that squad, you have 6s to save, and you rolled all 6s.
4 6s in a row. I did it very dramatically, one at a time as well, because I had to decide which guy was going to take it on. And yeah, 4 6s on the save when you're shooting at him with the Morkanaut. So that was nice. That was a nice. Little treat for me. Rolling a bunch of 6s. So definitely hot dice in this game because in both my turns when I had sustained and lethal going off, I was rolling a lot of 6s. I mean, I got a bunch of rerolls because of the DeathWatch vets from full rerolls, but I was still got a lot of 6s there. So
from turn 2 on, it was mostly on this flank because we had everything failed over here. First, the tank busters completely whiffed and then failed their charge. The Killicans got smacked and then 1 left to charge. The Morkanaut gets walled by the saves. So this flank, I just everything went sour on this side of it. Towards the center, I messed up.
Sour.
It was very sour. Towards the center, I messed up. Not playing this army as frequently, it's tough to say when you want to go sustain because you're going to do damage to yourself. So when do you do this? When do you do that? And the one big mistake I made, and we already rolled the dice and moved way past it, so it was too far to stop, was I didn't sustain the tank busters in the center. And had I sustained the tank busters in the center, I probably would have picked up the Odometer Kill Team and not lost the primary points for not taking a unit out that turn. Because I ended up eliminating them, but because you went first when I did it in the Overwatch, it didn't count until the next turn. So that was rough. Wartsnaga was cool.
Oh, yeah,
he made those grots really obnoxious to take out. So that was
I took an enormous amount of damage. I had popped off my 6th hit or precision, which I don't use that often because I knew I was going to have to get rid of him in order to do that. And even with that, even with the full rerolls, it still took a lot of damage because neg 1 to hit. So now the Thunderhammer's hitting on 5s. Ugh.
And then neg 1 to wound.
And neg 1 to wound as well. So it made a big difference. It took a lot of damage to pick him up. And he has a feel no pain too. So he took a lot.
Just a 6.
Yeah.
All in all, though, with this detachment with the Dread Mobb, I definitely am more practiced with it because don't have any way to just go through walls. So I get kind of limited and get kind of chunked up. I think I should have probably put one of the can squads in strategic to bring them on. This way, when you made your play and were able to hit, I would have had a squad of cans to bring on and hit as well. Now, granted, I did kind of have one squad of cans to hit. I was able to come around the corner, shoot, and just they did good. They did fine. They were
your advance and shoot strat gives you some play with that, or gives you some mobility to get around a little bit.
But again, it's advance and shoot, not charge.
Mm-hmm.
The early wah, maybe not the best play. For that, the 5-up invuln really didn't come into a factor for it, especially because a lot of your guns were AP2 going into it. So hindsight, probably the early wah wasn't as necessary. The only ones that it really helped for was the plasma guys. But even then, I still have a 6-up invuln. So the early wah might not have been as necessary, because I could have at least advanced and charged and probably cracked through with a little more on the kilocans. But yeah, I mean, I lost those cans super early. I got to look back into that and see if there was something better I could have done with the Scorcher cans. I figured I was going to lose one squad, but losing 2 of them like that, I mean, Grant one was on the Overwatch. That was a little too much, a little too rough, especially when that was a big, big part of my offense.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I might have gotten a little too zealous sending the Gorkanaut out there early. Maybe I should have had him hang back a bit. But then you would have just punched him with the kill teams. And with you having the re-rolls and the dev wounds and stuff like that, I'm not sure 100% if he would have survived. But a lot of this was to give you more of a test going into vehicles. To go into vehicle armies and be able to not have just easy access into anti-infantry, which is a big reason that I ran this today with the big Gorkanaut and Morkanaut and stuff like that. Like, I love this detachment. I think it's a lot of fun. I don't feel like I'm ready to take it anywhere competitive yet, but I wanted to give you that opportunity to play into vehicles. So how do you feel about that going into it?
Did pretty well, but again, like I said, a lot of the damage was from those DeathWatch veteran squads getting their full rerolls. Thunderhammers did a lot of work today. And when they hit on 4s, only rerolling 1s, not very consistent. But when you get the full rerolls to hit, it definitely helps them hit more. And when I have things like sustained and lethals going off, it allows them to get a lot more consistency with that as well when we're doing full rerolls. So definitely felt it there. Yes, I think I do have some play into vehicles. I just have to be very careful how I deploy my lethals and make sure I don't get slapped back too hard after I hit. But I do have the ability to drop and pick up 2 or 3 key units in a turn.
Yeah, no, most definitely. And I mean, I've been interested to play a little AdMech, especially out of the new detachment, since there's some cool stuff that the robots do out of there. I'm not a big fan of the Scorpius tanks. I mean, they're decent. I have to look at them and see if they've done. I think they did a little bit of work to them within some of the balanced data slates, so I think they might have a little more oomph to them. But finishing off with Orks, I would probably play this list again. I feel like it's got all the teeth there. It's Orks; they got lots of teeth.
Teeth.
But I don't. It's figuring out how to. I feel like my biggest weakness with this army right now is deployment. Figuring out what to do with deployment, because I don't have that ability to just walk through a wall. Yeah,
DeathWatch doesn't have a lot of long-range shooting, but if you were to deploy like this and you played against a gunline army that has the range and they went first, they would do a lot of damage to you as well. You just can't hide it all.
It's one of the difficult things, because it's kind of one of the plus minuses, especially what we're doing right now and how it is. Marines being so high up in the meta right now, just in general, like Vanguard Marines or being able to teleport around like DeathWatch in this sense, makes it very difficult, because it's like I've said with Necrons over a time. we look at some of those other armies like Tyranids or Dark Eldar and stuff and go, oh, maybe I could have a good play into this. But when it comes to that big bad boogeyman, the Marines, that's where it's difficult to get around, because it's like, okay, I can move and I can do all this stuff, and you just pick up and put your guys wherever you want them to be. And that's tough to get around entirely, which means I need to smack you with Grey Knights to show you how it's really done. Show you how it's really done. How you really pick up there. I don't have to spend CPU when I pick up. No, I'm definitely more confident with the Grey Knights, and that's why I haven't played them. Is because I feel like I have a lot more confidence behind them and what they can do. They seem so much stronger, and they fall into kind of a mid with the Marines. They're not Marines, but they are at the same time. They're better than Marines. They have 2-up save.
They do.
But this detachment, I like this a lot. I would love to get this up to a point to be able to play it competitively, but I don't. I need more practice and got to figure those things out, because I do feel like I'm stumbling all over myself, and maybe putting a squad of cans in strategic might be the best way to go.
Yeah, it definitely gives you some options. You can hide more better in case you do go second, so you don't get shot too hard right away. And putting something in reserve, that depends on the army. If you're playing against World Eaters, maybe you want to have everything on the table so you can shoot as much as you can turn one. But
going into up-down Marines, it may have been the most advantageous to put those guys into strategic, let you kind of make your play. I could have actually, with them being 250 points, I could have put both the missile squads in strategic and just deployed everything else, and then brought those on to keep them protected to be able to do that work later on. And honestly, now that I say it out loud, that might have been the better way to go. That might have been the better play, to make you have to put things on the table and then go, okay, now I'm going to move this stuff on and start to do damage. I mean, 24-inch range is good enough when you're coming on from strategic. So it's definitely something to look at for it. It definitely felt like I was kind of in a row, just sending stuff at you to get destroyed at some points. And again, it's orc shooting, so it's not that reliable. You got to pour into it and make sure you pick sustained. You don't get sustained if you don't pick sustained.
Yeah, you definitely want to bank a CP every turn for your full rerolls to hit, because that helps a lot, because orcs hitting on 5s is brutal when you don't have any rerolls.
Yeah, and the sustained is huge for that too, especially out of that. And I was, for the most part, had that for the rerolls most of the game. But it is definitely like the Grots help with that a lot. The Grots help with that a ton. So, all right, any closing thoughts on the DeathWatch?
Now we'll see what they can tangle and do next.
Yep. Well, Lane will not be here next week.
Nope.
So I will have a special guest for our game next week, as if everything goes according to plan, subject to change without reason. And then after that, we'll see. Maybe either AdMech or Grey Knights. I think I'm holding off on Grey Knights for you just yet, but I think it's inevitable. The inevitable clash of DeathWatch and Grey Knights is on the horizon.
See who the Emperor's favorite is.
Well, Grey Knights, but you can pretend.
Well, if I beat you, I think it's pretty clear who it is.
All right, guys. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.